Hey, Richard Bryce here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to show you a few simple shoulder exercises that you can do with a band to help improve your shoulder stability, to both reduce the likelihood of shoulder injuries and to help you improve your performance. So hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, much appreciated if you could do that as well. So when it comes to developing strength, there's different ways that you could do it. We're going to be using bands because it's easier for me to demonstrate on court, and it's also accessible for more people because you can buy them from a lot of different places really cheaply. Now, when we're trying to develop strength, there's going to be a few different factors that are important. But what you basically want to think about is kind of progressively challenging your muscles over time. So you're going to start at a certain level, and then you're going to have to increase the level of difficulty over time, and that provides your nervous system and your muscles with a reason to adapt. So because of that, you're going to have to choose the right level of difficulty in terms of band. I have two different bands here. I've got a thinner band, which is going to be easier, and I've got a thicker band, which is going to be harder. It's about finding the right one that works for you. Now, this can be a little bit harder to monitor with a band, but it is possible, and the gauge that I'm going to give you is that for a set of each of the exercises that we're doing, it should be pretty challenging to be able to do a set of 10 to 12. If you can really easily do a set of 10 to 12, then the band is probably a little bit light, or you might just need to stretch it further to make the band tighter and harder. Because what we want to see is that we're going to be aiming for like 2 to 3 sets of each exercise, and by the end of the number of sets it should be getting very challenging, because that's what's going to cause your body to adapt. Now, we're going to work on 3 different exercises. We're going to work on 2 for the back of the shoulder and kind of 1 for the front and inside of the shoulder. We're going to start with 1 for the back of the shoulder. This is for the external rotator muscles. There's a couple of different external rotator muscles, and I'm going to show you a couple of different variations of the exercise. But external rotation is this movement. It's a really important movement to get strong in tennis, because we have to have strong external rotators to decelerate from our forehand. So as we hit our forehand, we're internally rotating our arm really quickly, and that's going to put a lot of strain on the external rotators. So we want to make sure the external rotators are strong. It's also going to be really important for your serve to help decelerate things. So first exercise, banded external rotation. I'm going to step away from it. I'm going to stay in camera, so I'm not going to have the perfect level of difficulty for me. I've already kind of given you the gauge of what you're going for. And then the first variation that we're going to do is something that looks like this. So I'm going to keep my elbow into my side initially, just because it's easy to coach. And then I'm just going to externally rotate as much as I can. And when you do this, I recommend going quickly on the way out and taking around 3 or 4 seconds on the way in. A lot of people go quickly out and quickly in, and there's a time and a place for it, but for most people, for injury prevention, I recommend quickly out and then slowly on the eccentric portion. So that's what it looks like. Really simple. You're trying to maintain good posture, you're trying to keep your upper arm still, and it's just a rotational movement. 3 to 4 seconds in, 1 second out, do between 10 to 12 reps, switch over, maybe rest for 30 seconds, then go for the other arm, 10 to 12 reps, rest for 30 seconds, go back to the right arm. And between 2 and 3 sets of that is going to be a good target. So that's the basic version. We can change that up in a couple of ways. So I could alter slightly which muscle I'm going to be hitting just by lifting my elbow away from the side. So rather than having it tucked in there, I could take it to the side, and now doing exactly the same thing, trying to keep my upper arm still. It's now going to slightly change the focus on the muscles. Same number of reps, same number of sets. Another option that I've got would be to go into a position like this. So now I'm going to be externally rotating there. And this one will probably feel a little harder for most people. So adjusting your position relative to the band, getting the right band tension, you might have to play around with it, but the same number of repetitions are going to apply. And then another variation you could choose would be to, instead of having it there, I'm still going to have it at shoulder height, but now I can go into this position. Now, I wouldn't say any of these are better or worse, or more important or less important. they're going to challenge slightly different external rotators in slightly different ways. So honestly, the best plan is to rotate through them. You maybe work on one movement for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then change to one of the other positions for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And by changing between the exercises like that, it can kind of help to freshen things up and keep challenging the muscles in different ways and make sure that they're strong and stable and able to handle all of the demands that you place on them when you're playing. So we're thinking about doing this in program format. We've done the first exercise for the external rotators. We're now going to give the back of the shoulders a bit of break, and we're going to work on the internal rotators. Now we have different internal rotators. We've got the main pec chest muscle, we've got the main shoulder deltoid muscles, and then we've got the lats. So these are big muscles that internally rotate the shoulders. They're going to be responsible for a lot of the power that we generate on our shots. But then we've also got a smaller internal rotator muscle that lives kind of on the front of the shoulder blade. It's in a funny position. That's the one that we're thinking about strengthening, because it actually gets placed on a lot of load, especially under a lot of load, especially on your forehand. So as you go into the racket lag position, there's a real rapid external rotation of the arm, and if you don't have sufficient strength in this specific internal rotator, it can create a lot of problems. So we want to make sure it's strong. So again, I'm going to show you a couple of different options for this one. I'm going to start with my left hand and demonstrate it that way, just because it's going to be easier to fit onto the camera. But it's basically the opposite of what we've just done. I've just done an external rotation like that. Now I'm thinking about doing an internal rotation like that. So I'm externally rotating as much as I can, powerfully in, slowly, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, and then back in. And again, I'm trying to keep my elbow, my upper arm in the same position. So I'm not doing this. It's just an internal and external rotation movement. And you'll probably find that you'll be a little bit stronger on this internal rotator than you were on the external rotator. So I might need to step further away with a band, or maybe I might need to use a thicker band to give me the right level of resistance. But then we're going to be thinking around the same 10 to 12 reps at the speed I've just mentioned, and it should be challenging towards the end of that set. Do the left arm, change over, do the right arm, 10 to 12 reps, back to the left. And again, 2 to 3 sets of each is going to be enough. A lot of people will respond well to 2 sets. Potentially, you might benefit more from 3 sets. It just depends how your body recovers. And again, we've got a couple of different options for the way that we could do this. The first one is the position that I've just done it in there. I can also stand in this position. So kind of the opposite of what we just done for the external rotators. I'm going to go to my maximum range of motion there, quickly forwards, slowly on the way back. For this one, sometimes it can be useful to try and find something to rest your elbow on, because a lot of people's elbows will drop and move and that'll change it, but keeping the upper arm still and just rotating. And then again, we could go in that same position, shoulder now facing forwards, and I could think about internally rotating there. So all the same positions that we've just had for the external rotator, but now we're internally rotating. And then the same thing applies. None of the exercises is better or worse. It's just a change of angle, a slight change of focus. It requires your brain and your muscle to work in slightly different ways. So alternating between the options can help to challenge things, keep the training session a bit more exciting, and keep things progressing. The third exercise that we're going to work on in this little program is going to be for our scapular retractors, or the muscles that hold the shoulder blades back. Now there's a few different ways that we could try and target this, but I'm just going to show you a type of exercise called a trap 3 raise. Out of the 3 exercises, this is the one that you'll probably be the weakest in, so you'll probably need to use the lightest level of resistance in band, or just change your position accordingly to make it kind of fit in with what we've described in terms of the number of reps. But I'm going to move into position, and you can see here I'm kind of taking my shoulder blade forwards and back, so I'm protracting and retracting. And what we want to do is start by retracting the shoulder blade, pulling the shoulder blade down and back, and then I'm going to raise up. So when I do this, that's maybe a little bit too much for me, so I've just let out a little bit of band to change the tension because I couldn't quite get a good range of motion. So I'm going to now go from there, pull the shoulder blade back, and then raise up to about 45 degrees. So pull the shoulder blade back, raise to about 45 degrees, and as I pull it back, I'm thinking about squeezing my shoulder blade down and back. So I'm trying to keep it in that position the whole time. powerfully up, slowly, 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. Taking it back, squeezing it up, 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. And then we're thinking about the same number of reps, around 10 to 12 reps. Do that on one side, switch to the other side after 30 seconds, and then going back and forth, maybe 2 to 3 sets maximum. Now for all of these exercises, and for this last one especially, we can play around with the position of the attachment as well. So I think for me to get this one more effectively, I'd probably have the band a little bit lower, but that's something you can kind of play around with. And just like we had with changing the angle slightly, it's not necessarily better or worse, it just changes it a little bit. And sometimes the change is good because it helps to freshen things up and stimulate things in different ways. But that's our basic program. We've got the external rotators, then the internal rotators, then the kind of scapular retractors. And we're thinking about all 3 exercises for around 10 to 12 reps with the speed I demonstrated. It's really important to get the speed, 3 to 4 seconds while we lower the weight, a powerful contraction when we lift the weight, rest for 30 seconds, switch arm, put that together in a little program, and that's going to be a very useful way for most players to help stabilize their shoulders and reduce injuries. Before I go, I just want to let you know about a free live 5-day Neuro tennis challenge that I'm holding pretty soon. This is a completely free event where you get to come and spend 5 days with me and learn how to use brain-based training to become a more skillful tennis player. So I'm going to be teaching you how you can improve your vision and your balance and your coordination using brain-based training. It's completely free. I'll place a link to it down in the description. Click on that link, it'll take you over to a different page where you can learn a little bit more about the dates and things, and then potentially register. If you have any questions about that workshop, leave them down below. If you have any questions about implementing the shoulder program that I've talked about here, leave them down below. And of course, if you found the video, give me a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.